Now it's being recorded. Yeah, I'm glad you said something because I did that yesterday to my programming class, and I did this whole thing and didn't record any of it. All right, so yeah, it was awesome. Gotcha. All right, so you're gonna say evaluate, and then over here you see the toolbox, and we're gonna go to class. Right. See, this is your class diagram. Right, and what we want here is cats are awesome. All right, so we're going to create a class, and we'll call it. So we just there we go. So you click, and then you click over here, right? So, and I think we can zoom in. It's been a while since I've used this, in fact. So, is there a way of zooming in? There probably is. I'll find it in a minute. All right, so we'll call this entity, right? Entity. And it's going to be a zoom tool here. Zoom in. Okay, so yeah, command plus and minus is fairly standard for. There we go. All right, and so that there's one class right there, and we can go ahead and click on class, and we can create another one. And we said player, right, and another one, NPC, and enemy, right? Enemy. All right, and you can click these and you can drag them around. I think there's alignment tools where there should be anyway. Let me see. It's probably over here. Yep, right there. Alrighty. You have a good one. Yep. So we can align to the top like there. So we can select those and align the top. And there's probably a distribute. There we go. All right. And so these are all like siblings basically in this diagram, right? So we have entity, right? And then we have NPC, player, and enemy, and all of those are entities. So what we have there is called a dependency, right? Or that's actually a generalization. A generalization and inheritance are the same thing. So we're going to click here, and you drag from the child to the parent, right? Like that. And we'll do that a few times. So this is the most important portion as far as, so that shows a relationship, right, between NPC, player, and enemy. That means they are generalizations, or entity is a generalization of each one of those, right? So they all inherit from entity, right? Let's see. Trying to think of. There are other. I'm going to come up with a few things here. There are other relationships, right? So let's say if you have a car, right, or a vehicle, right? Are we when you think of, let's first go back to the generalization, right? When you think of an NPC or player, an enemy being inheriting from entity, we can say that it is a, right? NPC is an entity. A player is an entity. An enemy is an entity, right? It is one of these, right? That's what you can say about it, right? But if you think about a vehicle's a collection of different parts, right? And all these parts can be made separately and replaced and that sort of thing, right? So if I have, for instance, I could have a wheel, right? right? Um, how is a wheel related to a vehicle? Is a wheel a vehicle? Is it a vehicle? No, right? But it's part of the vehicle, right? So there's a relationship there, right? So what we call that is an aggregation, right? So let's see. So we'll say not dependency, a generalization. We'll get back to find that generalization inheritance. You can say that the child is of the parent, right? So I am a human, right? I am a mammal, right? Because I inherit from those classes, right? But a wheel isn't a bike, right? A wheel isn't a car. A wheel is a part of, right? And we call that an aggregation, right? Is part of, right? A collection of parts. So we have aggregation here, so we can put that, and it's shown with a kind of a diamond-headed thing, right? And so there's more than just the wheel. We could say there's, let's see, wheel, handle, bars, right? All right, let's see. And and we'll look at these definitions over here, right? So I thought that was it. Where is it? All right. So this goes into detail of what a class diagram is, right? Here's the relationships, right? So we started with an inheritance or generalization represents an is a relationship. Subclass, subclass two are specializations of superclass, and there's probably a way of doing this kind of squared off arrow in star UML, but I'd have to figure that out. It's been a while. Simple association, right? A structural link between two peer classes. There's an association between class 1 and class 2, right? Then the aggregation, right? Class 2 is part of class 1, right? A composition is a special type of aggregation where parts are destroyed when the whole is destroyed. In fact, the car might be more of a composition, right? Because if you destroy a car, then the wheel probably gets destroyed too. So that's in that class 2 can't stand by itself. So that's interesting, right? So it's useful to try to think of examples of those sort of things, right? I mean, composition would definitely be like if you created a recipe for something, right? Once you put the eggs and the flour into a cake, right? And you make the cake, you can't take it back out, right? If you throw the cake away, it's all gone, right? And so that may be more of a composition than, say, a car, right? Because a wrecked car, you can take parts off that aren't destroyed and use for something else. So that's probably more of a aggregation than like a cake would be, right? Once you make soup, you can't really undo the soup, right? A dependency exists between two classes if the changes to the definition of one may cause changes to the other, but not the other way around. Trying to think of an example of that. I'll think of one. I think the key and door, right, is a simple association. So let's put that in here because we have that on there, right? So door and the key. And so this association, I'm trying to remember what a directed association is, but I'll look that up. This for stability, strength, and note. I think you can do that. No, maybe not. All right. I guess the aggregation is that way. All right. Aggregation has you can have numbers related to them, right? So that it can be a one to many or many to many kind of relationship, right? Like if you have a class, if you talk about a class of students, right? A class of students is an aggregation of students, right? But there's only one class, but there can be many, so it's a one to n relationship, right? So we just imagine that this is that, right? So let's see, navigability, navigation kind. There it is. All right. One, I think that's it. Yep. All right. So that means there's one to many, many to one. Actually, probably should be, right? I'm not sure what that means. All right. Not sure that's what I was looking for. All right. Anyway, you can show that somehow. I just haven't used star UML in a while. All right. So I think the key to the door is a simple relationship there, right? All right. Let's see what else we got over here. Weapons, right? Let's try that. Weapon. That's a very general term, right? So what kind of weapons might you have underneath that? A gun, right? And a gun could be generalized another way. Well, let's go ahead and put gun in here because it's useful to work on this as you come up with the ideas, right? But a gun, yes. What else? A sword, all right. All right. Anything else? A bow, all right. Do guns and bows have anything in common? See, that was what I was getting at. Yeah. So you could in fact have another level in here potentially, right? This ranged, and what's the opposite of ranged? Melee, exactly. All right. And you want to learn to use these tools over here. Let me see. On top. Oops. All right, so at this point we can say that generalization like that. If there's a way of doing that. I'll have to look that up. See if there's a way of making it look like these diagrams here, right? I like to look like that, but so let's see, and we can do that. And if you double click on it, it locks it, which I'd forgotten when I remembered. So if you're going to do a lot of these, you can just lock it in and just do it like that. And then I think you push escape to get out of that. Probably want to, yeah, because I zoomed in quite a bit, so I can zoom out, I guess, now. You get the idea, I think. Are the questions about that? Because really, that's what I want you to do is detail as many objects, different classes that you think you can have, that you'll have in your game, and create a diagram like this, right? And you should have in there, you should always have a game manager, right? And it probably won't have children, but it will have relationships with these, right? Probably associations, right? Like that. I don't know why it said that. Anyway, so that's the assignment for the week, other than working on your project. And that the idea is hopefully, especially the more complex your projects get, the more this can help kind of visualize what you're trying to do. Any questions about that? Alrighty. Save that. First. All right. Well, that's all I really have for you today. If you don't have any questions about your projects, anything I can help you with? All right. Well, hopefully next week you will. All right. So we are almost. How's your project coming? Because yours is the capstone, and we're almost halfway through the semester. Believe it or not. I mean, is it a playable? Is it kind of playable yet? Okay. That's cool. Because soon, in the next few weeks, definitely we're gonna want to get a playable from all the capstones, and I'm gonna start pushing them through the QA class, and they'll be testing your game. So, the sooner we can get those, the better, actually. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be trying to get those together. Cool. Alrighty, well, that's all I have for now. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.